Fran Lebowitz has her day in the sun. This is the focus group.
It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
Bueller.
Laugh. And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is the focus group with Tim Bennett.
Staunch.
And John Nash.
Keep your clothes looking neat and clean.
We're all business. Except when we're not.
Hello, everybody. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. We are the focus group as we move into February and our 13th year. John, can you imagine we've been doing this show for 13 years?
If we were in Russia, I could see Russia from my porch. That would be a lucky number, wouldn't it? 13 would be the lucky number, right?
The lucky number. And some things have stayed constant. You heard us, or heard me tease the Fran Lebowitz. We got a Fran Lebowitz story that John found out of the New Yorker. And it's about some reviews she had done on Amazon. So we're going to do that in a segment we call Shop Talk, which is at the end of our show. And after that, we moved our business birthday that we've done forever. John had booked had given our business birthday the I guess, is it nomenclature? I don't know. What would you you've named it the only show in the universe. We're the only show in the universe that does business birthdays, right? You've kind of named us. Mm-hmm. You've given us that
an imprintor, a moniker and an imprintor of professionalism and uniqueness, and in fact, one of a kind.
So we had a couple of listeners that have people don't like change. So we used to do it before our first break. So now we've moved it to the end of the show because now that it's difficult with people time shifting, we don't do our games anymore. So we've now moved the business birthday to the end of the show. So we've got Shop Talk with the Fran Lebowitz story and our business birthday. And up front, we're doing the Caught My Eye, where John and I share some stories that we have during the week. And was it your niece or somebody back in the day, John said, could you describe our show? And so for some new listeners out there, and we know we brought on some people with the iHub network that's out of Palm Springs. So we have some new listeners joining us. But what did somebody say? We're smart with a lot of nonsense in the middle or something? Or
well, that was my mom's husband. It's a little bit of business talk with a lot of nonsense in between. I think we could get rid of the lot of nonsense part and say that it's business talk and career and consumer culture with a little bit of nonsense in between, right?
You don't think there's a lot of nonsense?
Well, back on Sirius, there was certainly a lot of nonsense, but we're replicating the workplace. You tell me, of course, now that we're working from home, I mean, I should have a cat walk across my desk or a kid come in with a blanket or something. Actually, I did change my shelving behind us, but that's for a later thing. Yeah, I moved. I shifted a few things so that we have books behind my head as opposed to this empty space I was noticing before. So,
yeah. So if you're watching, so we have both a video and an audio feed. So if you go to focusgroupradio.com, all of our media is housed there, as well as our podcast, which is TFG Unbuttoned, which is a 20-minute podcast we do on Tuesdays. But we have a video feed which goes out on 1 p.m. East every Wednesday, and then the audio gets released on Saturdays at our site focusgroupradio.com. So if you're watching, John, a lot of people will comment on some of the things John has behind him. I make my background blurry.
I can't do that.
John's the production guy. John does all the tech and the production work, and he can't do that. So you've changed up your. Are you going to talk about it later or?
There's nothing really to say other than I noticed that there was this gaping, ugly hole, and I thought, well, I'll move the books and the little pictures that are on the shelf below where the eye line is up one. And of course, I stared at the books and I thought, I don't know why I'm keeping some of these paperbacks. I read them. But we need them now for our Zoom bookshelves, don't we?
Did you see a number of people sent us a story. I did not use it for Caught My Eye. Did you see the woman on the BBC?
That's Caught My Eye.
What she had on her shelf?
Yeah.
Oh, is that your Caught My Eye?
That's why I did this shelf thing, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll tell you what somebody suggested we do with that later then when you do that as a Caught My Eye. Okay. Well, that's funny. Okay. Well, so we would have almost had the same thing.
So a couple of business keeping things for people who are getting ready to file taxes, or if you're a LLC or a sub-S. The IRS is not even beginning to receive returns. Did I read this until February 12th? Normally you used to be able to file almost immediately, and they're only starting to take returns on the 12th. You still have to pay your taxes on the 15th, or if you go on extension, pay your taxes on the 15th, file in the September zone. And then I heard from someone, I don't know if you've heard from your IRS friends at all, that the IRS is like a year behind. I don't know what that meant. A year behind what? I wasn't sure, but it sounds like there's a lot of paperwork that's just not getting done because people aren't in the office, or who knows, right?
Maybe they're working on Trump's audit. Apparently, that's the longest audit in the world.
Well, it's 1,000 pages. It's 10. Yeah, I don't know. It's so that was a little business bookkeeping thing. And how many weeks? We're going to talk about this later in Shop Talk, but we're only 1 or 2 weeks out from Super Bowl.
No, 1 week. I
1
think
week.
It's this coming weekend, right?
Okay.
February 7th.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is February 3rd, so it's this weekend. And it seems to be very quiet. I know we're going to talk. We have a Super Bowl story about advertising. I was shocked when I read the story about how much the spots are going for. I was unaware that they've, even with what's going on in the world, that they continue to garner a lot of money.
I was really surprised by that. And but I think that, well, we'll talk about that when we get there. So anything else happened over the weekend of note? It was kind of a quiet one as everybody braced for the winter storm that was moving all the way across from. Oh, yeah. So, Tim, you probably saw the piece. The storm that we're experiencing on the East Coast, or what they had on Monday and Tuesday, that started out west, mainly as rain and snow. And as a result of it, because of the wildfires in California and all the rain, a big chunk of the Pacific Coast Highway was washed out. Did you see that story at all?
Yeah, I saw that. And
you see any pictures of it?
Yeah, when I looked at it, I thought, how do you fix that?
You read my mind. So I'm looking at the picture, and the road, literally, the mudslide that took out the road just did it in such a fashion that you stare at it for a while, and you're like, okay, now how are they going to go in there and repair this? Because you're going to have to bring dirt in. You're going to have to shore it up somehow. I don't even know where you would anchor the concrete and stuff, right?
Well, I figured they'd probably have to do some rebar and reinforce it and drill something into the side of the earth. But it was, I probably didn't read it close enough, but it was Big Sur, right? It was around there. And I'm guessing that was part of the coastal highway. I don't think I'm sure there's probably another way. You probably can go inland to get around that. I'm sure with the
They're
highways. They're
diverting traffic around it, yeah.
Yeah, but it, talk about,
this
infrastructure.
This is the second or third time in a couple of years that part of the PCH has been wiped out to sea by mudslides or excessive rain. You've driven on the road. It's a gorgeous road. You've probably shot commercials on the road when you were down at Subaru. It's prone to this, though, because, you've driven the road, you're like, wow, we're hanging on the edge of a cliff. And it's not, I guess when you look at that mudslide, it didn't look like stable earth to me. I guess that's what you were getting at with how do you repair this, right?
Yeah, and I often wondered a lot of times how those roads ever were secure anyway, but I always just figured they were on rock beds or, beds of rock, but I don't know. I've always, and the West Coast thing, when I lived in Oregon, they used to have, I'd go to Cannon Beach and they had these tsunami sirens for tsunami warnings. And I used to think, well, how tough could that be to outrun the ocean? You probably just run right up the hill. But
okay, I'd like to see you do that. Like when the tsunami warning goes off, you're hoofing it up the hill.
I'm like, what's that? And they're like, well, in cases, I'm like, well, there's plenty of time to run right up the hill. It's not that deep. I don't think the ocean's going to come in that quick. They're like,
yeah, stick around, you'll see, right?
But I often wonder why you'd want to live at a place like that.
Well, it's sort of like that, and you're right. The coast of Washington State. That a couple years ago, they had a story about how whole houses just fell off the edges of the cliff because they were built so close to the edge. And I guess when you built something 20, 30 years ago, engineers say, "Oh yeah, it looks sound. We're good," but it changes.
Well, it is beautiful.
It
is beautiful out there. I often wonder why I never lived in California, particularly Northern California. Mm-hmm. Every time I've gone, you and I had gone to I guess my last trip out there, though, was a while ago. We saw your sister and brother-in-law, and then we went to the Gay Wine Week.
Yeah, out in the vineyard.
Out in the vineyard, and we were invited out there with Gary and Mark, and what a fun trip that was.
It was a great trip. Also, the Jelly Belly factory tour we did. That was a lot of fun.
The weather was great, and I'm always like, why didn't we ever live here even for a couple of years?
You just said something smart, even for a couple of years. On the flip side, if I had to live somewhere now, I may actually choose something like Palm Springs. And as Tim mentioned to you earlier, we're now on the iHub network out in one of our favorite destinations, Palm Springs. But I agree with you on coastal California and coastal Washington State. I mean, it's gorgeous. So there's the desert. It could have been an interesting area to live, but you and I are East Coast guys. You know that. You like the seasons.
I do. But, I lived in Portland, Oregon for a couple of years, and I loved it. I didn't want to leave, but I did. I wouldn't go. I wouldn't go live there now, probably at my age. But when I was younger, I loved it. I didn't want to leave. I would have been content to stay there. But it's a great part of the world. So, anyway, Mr. Nash, what caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
Well, as some of the listeners who sent you the information about the BBC, apparently in Wales, a woman made a lot of people happy by what she had on her bookshelf during a thing. So it says the headline is "Not So Hidden X-Rated Bookshelf Item Turns BBC Guest into National Hero." Sharp-eyed BBC viewers got an unexpected eyeful this week when they spotted something unusual on a bookshelf in the background of an interview. And of course, the article does it this way. It was a penis. Yvette Amos spoke with BBC Wales about job struggles during the pandemic, and the object stood on a bookshelf just over her right shoulder. Not clear if it was intentionally put there or left there, but Amos seems to have a mischievous streak. Another shelf features the X-rated drawing game Scrawl on the top shelf, and the door just beyond had bloody handprints on it, which I think were like stickers or something. Whatever the intention, fans popped up on social media. So Twitter went crazy. And people said things like, perhaps the greatest guest background on BBC Wales News tonight. Always check your shelves before going on air. Yvette Amos, national hero. Or I've removed Yvette Amos, and this will now be my Zoom background for all future meetings. Yvette Amos is the woman we all need today. And just to bring Bernie front and center, I don't know if you saw this one. Someone put him in. So I guess it's, and that's what made me actually look at my shelves behind me and think I should clean up some of that. Because I had a shelf that just had some, stuff laying on. I thought I'll make it look nice and neat. But can you believe, do you think she forgot it was there, or do you think she knew it was there and, put it up there?
Well, so Brian had sent me this too, and I laughed when I saw it. And I said, Brian, that would be something you would have done to me, and I wouldn't have noticed. Like somebody would have put that in the back of my shelf, and I would have just gone on the air and then been mortified, right? Because would you have done that? Like, would Bob have gone in and done something like that?
Possibly, yeah.
Which I would think would be funny, right? So I thought, I wonder if somebody did that to her. But when you talk about the bloody handprints and everything else, then you wonder, was it something else? I wonder what topic was she talking about?
Job searching and the struggles of being unemployed.
Oh, okay.
So, and then people went really crazy. They blew up the picture. It was pixelated. They were trying to figure out every title of the book on every shelf. I'll just go back to this one, though. I just think this is putting Bernie in there was like with the mittens. So
Brian actually came up with an idea for the focus group for Christmas as a gift. Instead of the elf on the shelf, we could do the dick on a shelf. And we can do a focus group thing and put a little wreath around it. And we can give him out at Christmas for Zoom meetings.
Please thank Brian for me. He is always one step ahead. And I'm sure that AdMark 360 could source this gift for us.
They can source them out of China. We could decide what we like. We could have a mold of our units, or we could get other ones or something out of China.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, Brian. Yeah.
Mine is also unit related. The headline is, women reportedly perform sex act on gas station attendant until cops arrive. So this was a robbery in Slovakia.
Now the headline is a little different. Woman occupies thief until
I
police
wrote that headline myself.
So you were being very delicate and polite.
I was being delicate.
Okay.
But the actual headline was, woman reportedly performs sex act on gas station.
Oh my God.
Robber until cops arrive. And then I looked at it. I saw it was Slovakia, and I thought, well, maybe Melania had something to do. We haven't heard from her since she's left. She's Slovakian, but it wasn't her. So they said the attempted robbery and subsequent sex act occurred at a gas station in Bratislava, Slovakia. The woman performed oral sex on a gas station robber in Slovakia, distracting him and delaying him until the police arrived, according to the report. Imagine writing this story.
Imagine looking at the mugshot. I'm still...
So the 24-year-old thief allegedly forced the male employee to hand over the money at the cash register. Then he punched the attendant. The attendant went to the back. The employee went to the back room. The robber went to the back room when this mystery woman appears. And she comes in the back door. They don't know whether she's an employee or not. She just kind of stumbles into the gas station. So she decides, they said it's unclear if she decided to perform the sex act out of fear of being assaulted herself. But the police source told the local agency that the woman appeared to be willing to help stall the burglar until the police arrived. So another staff member up front had called the police, and they said the police had arrived, and they discovered the woman and the robber laying naked on the floor in the back room. And she was servicing him. And so when the police officer came busting in, and in the translation, the woman said something essentially to the police, "Take him, I can't take it anymore." And so the police officers arrested him, and they said he resisted arrest. Now, so he breaks into this gas station to get money, apparently, but I'll stop and get a Hummer. And
considering there could have been one getting filled up at the pump right outside. But so she was totally random, coming in a back door, and she had nothing to do with the clerk or anybody, from what they can tell, had nothing to do with anybody at the station, right?
No, they had nothing to do, and they think that she had just done it because maybe she was afraid she was going to get assaulted because she saw that they'd beat up the other guy where they got the money from. So she decided she would take matters into her own hands, so to speak, and she took care of him until the police came, which I thought was quite funny. Which reminded me of a story. I don't know if I ever told you the time when my friend Chris Crenshaw and I were coming out of the gym, and a guy had broken into a car and then had robbed a store. And this was in downtown Philadelphia, and security guard was chasing the guy. So Chris and I, this was the 80s. We're in our 20s, and we think we're something, right? So we now join in the chase.
To help. Yeah, to help.
To help the security guard. So we catch this guy. We tackle him in some alleyway. We get him down the ground. Security guard comes, handcuffs the guy. And this guy starts saying, "If you let me go, I'll give you a blowjob."
Now, so there's a layer or two that's intriguing about that. He figured out you guys were gay?
No, I don't know. He just wanted to let go. So the security guard's on top of him. Chris and I tackled the guy because we were young and we were able to get the guy. Security guard was middle-aged, heavier. He's yelling for us to help catch the guy. We catch the guy. Stupid when I think about it now. Could have had a gun, could have had a knife, whatever.
Yeah.
We catch the guy. This is before cell phones. Other stores, it's 6 o'clock on a Chestnut Street in Philadelphia. They're calling the police. Typical Philadelphia police take their time to get there. We've got the guy handcuffed, and the guy keeps saying to the security guard, "Brother, let me go. I'll give you head if you let me go." So every time he would say that, the security guard would knee him a little more in the back. So the police finally get there, and the police keep saying, "What happened? What happened?" And all the security guard would say, "He kept wanting to get me a blowjob. He kept wanting to give me a blowjob." And the cop finally looks at him and says, "Listen, it took us a while to get here. You had time. You should have done it." He said, "That's not the crime." He said, "I need to figure out what was going on here." And then he looks at Chris and I, and he's like, "You two can go." We're like, "Thank God." Chris is like, "We don't need to spend any time at the roundhouse. We don't need to go down there and get involved in all that."
I'm surprised Chris didn't want to at least experience 2 seconds of the roundhouse, right?
Oh, my God. We were dying. So, yeah. But the cop was like, "Listen." And the cop says, "Some are better than others." He said, "But you had time." He goes, "That's not the crime. I need to know what happened here." He says, "The fact that he wanted to give you a blowjob, that's not what we're here for."
That's an incidental. That's an incidental, right?
Typical,
oh, my God.
Typical Philadelphia cops. So, hey, you had found a quick story that I had actually read in Automotive News about these chips that are shortage of chips for the automobile manufacturers, which is going to have them lose billions of dollars,
60,
right?
Yeah, so the headline read, a global computer chip shortage could mean $61 billion in lost sales for automakers like Toyota and Nissan. I would like to include in that Volkswagen, Ford, and Fiat Chrysler, who all apparently source chips for the control systems in modern vehicles through a couple of companies, but due to the event, there's been manufacturing disruptions and, I guess, shipping disruptions, correct?
Yeah, and Subaru had to close. They weren't mentioned in this story, but they had to close as well for 2 days because of the chip shortage. And I was shocked when they talked about the fact that there was such a shortage. And I was unaware, and I think you probably were too, about how much those chips account for the price of a new car.
That was a surprise to me as well. I was really surprised by that. I know there are a lot of chips in the cars. I just didn't know that they contributed so significantly to the bottom line.
Right, so they say the chips are used in navigation, Bluetooth, collision detection systems, just to name a few things, and they account for about 40% of a new car's cost. Think about that. It's almost half the cost of your car is wrapped up in these chips. I know back in the day, this was probably 10 or 15 years ago, there were well over 20 different, we called them computers, but there were 20 different systems.
Are you saying that was a decade ago you had that many systems that were still reliant? Okay.
At one time, there were 23 of them. There were sensors for everything, for the braking systems, for all-wheel drive, and that was, cars are far more sophisticated now with some of these, even the adaptive cruise control, which didn't exist then, right? So, yeah, I can't imagine what this is doing. So I guess now manufacturers are deciding to do a hierarchy to say, okay, what are the most popular models? What are the models where we can make our most profitable models? And decide how you're going to control production, because it's not only just the automobiles, right? They also said Apple's having issues with getting...
Anybody who's using semiconductors has an issue with this. And you just said something that was intriguing to me. I suppose they could make the decision about prioritizing manufacturing based on the platforms, but they must uniformly use similar chips across all cars and trucks, right? I mean, for them to be able to say, let's prioritize the F-150 over, a compact car or something because we have more truck sales, that means they know the chips are interchangeable.
Right. You make more money on selling a
F-150,
a large SUV than you would a sedan,
yeah,
for instance. So you'll make the truck rather than the sedan and use the chips for the trucks. But I was surprised by that. But what a huge hit to the economy, $61 billion
in lost sales, simply because they can't make them in a consistent way, and they don't ship consistently due to the event.
But you have to say event, by the way, because we get pulled down if we use the other word.
Which is odd because it's on the news every night. But yeah, YouTube has a strange censor filter going on. So it's the event. And listeners have figured this out. They're like, oh, when you say the event, you mean ... We're like, yes, we do. Yeah,
I was talking to somebody about cars this weekend. I think my next car I'm going to get is electric.
Well, also, if you follow the news, General Motors claims that by 2030 or 35, which is really not that far down the line, everything they make is going to be electric, which is interesting. I think we should devote a whole show to the electric car. And you and I have test-driven the VW e-Golf, which we loved, right?
Yeah.
And it had great torque and great power. I, of course, was paranoid about the charge. That's a whole thing.
Plug it in.
Anyway, we're going to take a quick break, and on the other side of this quick break, we have a couple of shop talks and a business birthday for you. And in fact, one of the shop talks is about Fran Lebowitz. She seems to be having her day in the sun right now, and boy, is she funny. So stick with us, and when we return, we have shop talk and business birthday.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. The Focus Group, an entertaining look at the outside of business. For your convenience, listen anytime, anywhere, anyway, anyhow, and on anything. Got it? Head over to focusgroupradio.com and pick your poison. We're all business, except when we're not.
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. Be sure to find us at focusgroupradio.com. And, of course, wherever you listen to your podcasts or your shows or your internet of choice. We're pretty much everywhere, aren't we, John?
We're everywhere. We are. That's what we have some imaging that our voice for the Focus Group, Drew Birdsey out of Las Vegas. I wonder how Drew is doing. We should check in with him.
Yeah, we were going to update some of the imaging. Maybe we should.
He's such a cool guy. And he is, by the way, listeners, finding a good voice is actually more difficult than you suspect. And we could send him anything, and he just Tim sends him very interesting direction. Like, I want this, I want that, and it comes back perfect. So
yeah, he's great. And there's a lot of stuff we have. There's a lot of stuff we haven't used, which but we'll see. Maybe we'll see what happens. So we had teased this piece about Fran Lebowitz, and John and I had talked about the Netflix series. Have you finished watching any of the Netflix series?
We're taking our time. Pretend It's a City. It's the one that everybody's talking about right now. And
So how far have you been into it?
Oh, we're like 4 shows in. I think we only have 2 or 3 more because they're not that long. They're like 20, 25 minutes. They're. It's not like a huge commitment, but it's really hilarious, and I want to let it last for a while. I'm playing like it's something that's broadcast once a week. So there you go.
I loved her, and I used to always watch her on David Letterman or some of the other late night shows. And I've said to you before, I wonder if she sells outside of the Northeast or outside of New York because she's such a fixture. She's such a sort of iconic New York person, which was very much what they said about the Seinfeld sitcom, right? Although the Seinfeld sitcom became very popular, different than Friends. There was some sort of insider stuff, I think, with Seinfeld, different than maybe Friends. But Fran Lebowitz is definitely a kind of cantankerous New Yorker, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
And she plays that part to the hilt, and I think that everybody knows that, and I think they know New Yorkers. So I think she plays generally nationwide,
But she's known not to like tech or to embrace tech, and she doesn't have a phone,
No.
right? And she has a landline,
Yeah.
but she doesn't have a computer. And there were a few other things. So I was surprised by this. Is she leaving these? So this came out of what was it, New York Magazine?
The New Yorker.
Or the New Yorker. And so the headline was Fran Lebowitz 1-star Amazon reviews. Were these really reviews that she had left, or was this
it's supposedly true, yeah. And if it's not, then it's definitely someone who wrote in her voice. But when you read these, I think it's very Fran Lebowitz.
So that's what I thought was so funny, because I thought, so here she is, and she's either making a comment of somebody sent her something, and then she's going to make the like, why'd you send me this, and here's my review, or because I thought, well, if she doesn't have a computer or anything, because in this whole thing with her show in the Netflix series, she goes through all these issues of, I don't need to do that, I'm not going to do that, and here's how I figure it all out. So some of these are kind of funny. Did you have a favorite one of some of these reviews that were listed here?
I had a couple. I'm scrolling down here. One was the metal detector, and the other might have been the paper shredder. Well, I'm sorry, and actually the Harry Potter book. So how do you want to do this? I could either give you some of my, let me give you the Harry Potter one. Where did that go? Okay, so that was actually my favorite one too. So all right, so I'll let you have that one, and I'll do the paper shredder. How's that? So she gives a review for a paper shredder, and it goes like this. Do you work for the CIA? No? Then let me save you some time. Keep your documents in one piece. Trust me, no one is rooting through your garbage. No one cares. Once you learn that, everything in life will make sense. No one cares about you or about anything. That's not even a review. What that is like a kind of a life thing. But anyway.
Like, why would you get a paper shredder? Yeah. So I wonder about that, because so many people are so concerned about, someone's going to go through my garbage and steal my numbers, steal my account numbers.
So I'll tell you a quick paper shredder aside. My brother-in-law, Steve, has done a great job with his family photos. He took all the prints, bought a really good scanner, one that he recommended to me. I'll give you the recommendation too. Not expensive, but it's super fast. He scanned all the prints. And then I said to him, what did you do with the prints? And the other day we were talking on the phone, and he said, I shredded them. I had never in my life thought of doing this. I would have just throw a picture away, right? But he didn't want the girls, my niece's pictures, to end up in any unscrupulous hands. And I thought, well, if you ever had a shredder, that might not be a bad use for it, right?
I guess I didn't think of that either. Or maybe my grandmother burned them. She used to burn pictures in a barrel. She's Canadian.
It sounds like a voodoo thing. I'm sorry, but
the Canadians would burn them, throw in the fireplace.
So what was read one of your?
So this Harry Potter one, and I totally agree with this one. Have you read any of the Harry Potter books?
No, and I agree with exactly what she said.
I agree with what she says as well. So she says Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. So she says, I've never read Harry Potter. I never will read Harry Potter. Do you know why this is? Because I'm not 12, okay? I've had people, adults mind you, tell me that I need to read this. You need to read it. You need to read it. No. Eat, sleep, breathe. These are things I need to do. Then there are the things I want to do, which are not many. So there are things I need to do and things I want to do. And I can tell you, Harry Potter is not on either list. And I agree with her. Everybody's always like, oh, you should read it. I know it's adult, it's young adult.
YA, it's YA.
They're really great books. Now, I suppose if you had kids and they were reading it and you wanted to talk with them about it, I don't know. Your mom probably would advocate, right? Would your mom advocate reading it if you... No.
If you're, as my mom has often said, if you have no interest, you're not going to be reading it. I think that's for most people, and I never really got into the Harry Potter thing. I know people love it. adults and kids, and I can see why, because it's great characters, it's fantasy, it's all that stuff, and of course there's now a Universal part of Universal Studios tour that or down in Florida that has the World of Harry Potter and the Wizarding or something like that, but it just wasn't me.
So what was another one of your favorites?
This is the metal detector, the Ace 300. If you see an adult using a metal detector, you know something has gone terribly wrong. He's lost something. And I say he. You never see a woman with a metal detector. It's always a man. So he's lost one of two things, his wedding ring or, more likely, his mind. And he's listening for beeps. He shut out the rest of the world, his friends, his family. He's only focusing on the beeps. This is what happens when you have a country that's obsessed with material wealth. This is the last domino of American capitalism, a man with a metal detector looking for buried treasure. She just takes it from something as stupid as a metal detector to a meta idea of capitalism and what's wrong with the country.
My other favorite one was about crayons, and we've always talked
Same,
about we love
great pick.
We love the Crayola 64 count. As a kid, that was gold. I used to love getting that box of crayons. And so she writes here, this is for the crayons Crayola 64 count box. You never see something written in crayon and think, now this I've got to read. The crayon is the tool of children and idiots. If the Declaration of Independence were written in crayon, we wouldn't be a country today. Nobody would take it seriously. They'd go, what is this, a placemat? So
that's one of my favorites because
the line I love, the crayon is the tool of children and idiots.
Here's one that she did it's called Portable Cement Mixer by Ryobi, R-Y-O-B-I. Thank goodness it's portable for when I need to mix cement on the go. You see, this is the problem with society. We've become so fixated on the idea of multitasking, getting multiple things done at once, that we can't even mix cement without texting and eating a sandwich. If your job is mixing cement, just focus on the cement, okay? Lunch can wait. Portable portable cement mixer.
Yeah, that one was, and then the other one, which I totally agree on this one too, and its simplicity was the dry shampoo, Pantene, dry shampoo.
I think that was like a one line, right?
No.
Yeah, that's what she said. She says, no, dry shampoo. No, there's nothing.
Which I agree. I never understood the dry shampoo thing. You just spray it in your hair, right?
Yeah,
it's supposed to just.
It's like a dry. It's a foam, and then it supposedly cleans your hair. I've known women who've used it if they were on a camping trip years ago or something. I'm like, what are you using? Oh, it's dry shampoo. I'm like, I've never heard of such a thing. What does she have here? She has a selfie ring light with tripod. Here we are in the world of, Zoom and everything. People have this need to be constantly filming themselves. I don't understand why. They think that something interesting might happen. They don't want to miss it. Let me clue you in. Nothing interesting ever happens. Maybe 10 truly interesting things happen per year. None of them in your apartment. Selfie ring light with tripod. Any others you like on here?
Yeah, the one, and I was wondering about this because I don't think you adhere to this one, but this is very New Yorker or probably somebody in a big city, was the hammer, the 16-ounce Craftsman hammer. And so she says, what are we hammering? Why do we as humans feel this need to put holes in things? See, this is why I love New York. Everybody rents. I've lived in my apartment for 35 years. I've never made a single hole. There's nothing hanging on my walls. Even if I die here, I'm getting that security deposit back.
It's so true.
Do you put holes in your walls?
Yeah, sure we do.
Rent it?
Yeah. Even when we rented, we did.
And then what do you have to do? Do you have to spackle them
No. That's considered wear and tear. That's just living in the apartment. She's just being curmudgeonly, which is hysterical. But this hammer thing reminded me, as we've been saying to folks, that we're also available on the iHub network out in Palm Springs. You and I have a very sort of funny story about a hammer which involves the thumbtack. And, well, let's put it this way. We were staying at one of the classic guest houses in Palm Springs years ago. Was it the Century Palms? It was
Century Palms.
Century Palms.
The building's there, but it's called something
else.
Now,
but
sure.
We lucked out and had a group of guys from Boston that were traveling, and they were super friendly and funny, and we just sat and laughed our asses off the entire time because they were so funny. And one guy used to work at a CVS. He was a cashier, and he was told that you were never supposed to say certain things over the store intercom, particularly like women's hygiene products. And
Women's hygiene products, men's like
condoms, things like that. That had to be that you had to physically walk up to someone for assistance. You couldn't put it through the thing. So he was at the register one day, and he, do you remember this one? And he had to do a price check for tampons, but they didn't follow
Tampax.
Tampax, that's right. He didn't follow the rules, and I think he did a price check for Tampax, and someone picks up the thing. And they said, do you mean the kind you put in with your thumb or a hammer? Because he thought he said thumbtacks. But we still laughed our asses off because we thought that's the kind you put in with a thumb or a hammer. And then
because he wasn't supposed to say Tampax. That's what was so
exactly
great about it.
Yeah.
Which reminds me of that other funny story which your friend talked about with. He was at one of the baths one time, and there was this announcement, and he kept thinking. Everybody famously knows that Bette Midler and Barry Manilow used to play
perform
at the baths in New York in the 70s, right? So he kept hearing what he thought was Marsha Wallace. So he said, "Oh my gosh, Marsha Wallace must be doing a set. Let's go find her. So he goes to the front desk and says, "Where's Marsha Wallace playing?" And the guy says to him, "Watch your wallets, you idiots."
Watch your wallets. Marsha Wallace.
Oh my God, Marsha Wallace is here. Careful of the intercom.
You sort of can't make those stories up because they're just so classic and they just happen they're random. I think they're lots of fun. So, yeah.
The other story I thought you might pick was the Rubik's Cube one. Why don't you read that one, the Rubik's Cube? Because you're a Rubik's Cube fan. Did you
used to be in college, but she summed it up perfectly, and I did love this one. She says, Rubik's Cube by Hasbro. You finish it. Now what? Congratulations, you have a slightly more attractive cube.
John used to, when we were in high school, John could do the Rubik's Cube in a minute. You had it figured out.
I did.
Can you still do it?
No, I can't. And it's funny you bring that up because you and I have been using Rubik's Cube for some of our client work, like photograph of it, and I'm afraid to scramble the cube that I have, even though I know how to break it apart and put it back together if I can't do the side thing. But there was a sequence of turns and understanding what was the center color on certain things, and we did it once at it was Marianne's parents' anniversary party, right?
You were the big hit at the party, and everybody they'd mix it, and you would do it in like under a minute.
I was the hit for the nerdy Rubik's Cube, and then Tim was the hit for teaching all the adults how to do the dance to YMCA. And we were the only two, outside of Marianne and Michael, who were there. I think we were the only two people of our age. Everybody else was adults, and they were talking to us like adults too. They would come over and say, "Hey, you know that or you know that kid?" You and I left that party. We're like, wow, what a hilarious town we live in.
You can go to YouTube and they'll show you how to do the cube.
Yes.
Whatever. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you want to figure it out, you can go. But I used to always be amazed with you that you could figure it out. I don't know if you figured it out. Did you figure it out on your own?
Yeah, that's because that was long before they had the guidebooks or the videos. You had to figure it out on your own. Yeah.
Well,
that's
you're a
what
smart
I did.
kid.
Yeah.
Not me. I didn't figure that out. I was get aggravated with it. I still can't.
So what's our next story here is Tim teased this at the beginning of the show, and we've been talking about it as well. Or I should take that back. We used to talk about this a lot more than we do now, but Super Bowl
do a whole show about it, right?
A whole show on what people spent, the creative directors, what brands were going to be doing ads. So CBS, surprisingly, has sold virtually all of its commercial time slots in this upcoming Super Bowl on February 7th. And I was sort of surprised by that because there are some people that we've reported on in the past few weeks who are not returning to the Super Bowl. I think Budweiser was one of them. Coke is another one. There are some people you'll recognize that will be in the game again, but I guess you and I are going to watch because we're captive audience with the event. But and then you said to me that the numbers that they were charging just was beyond, like a 30-second spot was what, over 5 million?
Right, a 30-second spot is 5.5 million, and people rarely do a 30-second. Most people would do a minute because by time the commercial comes, particularly when people that host parties. Now this year maybe it'll be different because people aren't going to be having. Usually people would have big Super Bowl parties and people will be over watching the game. Now with the event, people aren't doing that probably. So you don't have to quiet the crowd down to see the commercial because by the time you quiet the crowd down, 30 seconds, commercial's over. So you'd buy a minute. So a minute would be about $11 million if I'm doing my math here, which is a lot of money.
Yeah.
when you think about a corporation spending that kind of dollars, and a lot of times, whether it was Budweiser or Coca-Cola, as you mentioned, you'd buy 3 or 4 ads. So think about that amount of money you're spending. And I did laugh because one of our sponsors here on the show, Fiverr, I looked and I thought, well, they're on the Super Bowl. Maybe they need to be doing a little more than once a month.
With us, you mean? Yeah. Hey, Fiverr did not surprise me so much because I think the service and the connection to talent, and we all do need to do that for projects. That made a lot. That was a sensible buy. I want to caveat that by saying it's a sensible venue to have a spot in. If you were the director of marketing, would you commit $11 million to it? Do you think they're doing 30 seconds or they're doing a full minute?
Well, I don't know. My guess is maybe they're doing 30, but I don't know because I think most people do a minute. But that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. There are a number of new brands, and a lot of it is around the strength of a lot of the stay-at-home, and particularly with Fiverr, it really does, play into that. As does, things like Zoom or Skype or some of these other programs. Right? I don't know if they're going to be there or not. I know a lot of the auto companies are passing this year. I know Kia, and which has been in the Super Bowl for the last probably 5 years or more. They're not going to be in the Super Bowl. And I don't really know what car brands are, because usually they would release stuff and we would watch them and we'd talk about them. And there was all the big hype of releasing the ads early and
there,
all the
there
ad
you bring up,
meters
there you bring up something that seems to be a victim of the event, right? You and I read a lot, and we're usually reading our trades, a lot of, Adweek, Advertising Age. I haven't read a lot about the early release ads. I haven't seen anything pop up on YouTube. And on social media, I'm not seeing people saying, hey, you got to check out the new Doritos ad. Or I bet it's going to be a very different tone emotionally for this year's Super Bowl ads. It's going to be good to watch, period. But I think there's going to be a little different tone, right?
Well, they said advertisers are going to be being more
somber
or hopeful. And
okay. I'll take that. Yeah.
Hopeful and maybe... what's the word I'm looking for?
Optimistic, forward-thinking.
Yeah,
sunshine.
That things will get better, and or maybe that they're
it's just
going
buying,
to be
I'll give
servicing the community, things they've done for the community, things they've done for helping people. Kind of like when the whole event started, when everybody was switching over to make hand sanitizer, or they're doing masks or whatever. Now this is all about what we've done. So what these brands have done, we've served X amount of meals, or we've done all these other things for first responders and so forth.
We'll give some free advice to people for doing a Super Bowl ad. Tim and I recommend using the song, from Annie, "The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow." Can you imagine if every Super Bowl ad was basically based on "The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow"? That would have been very funny, actually, if all the advertisers got together and said, let's use that Annie song about the sun's coming out tomorrow. Oh, I got an idea. We'll do it this way. That
would be interesting if you said you had to pick a song. That might be a contest that we do maybe on our Facebook page, which is Focus Group Radio. If you had to pick a Super Bowl song for an ad for this year, I wonder, that's a good challenge. I wonder what you would pick. I have to think about that.
Well, if you said the theme is going to be sunshine and rainbows, and it's walking on sunshine, or the sun will come out, it would take a concerted effort of all the brands talking to each other to pull that one off. But if they did, the American public would laugh their butts off for days if they realized the theme through every single ad was something to do with the sun will come out tomorrow. That's a stupid idea. Anyway, that's why.
Not a stupid idea. I remember one time I was at a wedding, friends of mine was at a wedding, and the couple was not getting, they're since divorced. They weren't getting along well. And I remember the couple
at the wedding, they're not getting along well.
Right. Yeah. They weren't. The couple was, another couple was there that wasn't getting along well. They were only married about a year. And the couple who does their first dance, and it's their song. And I'm trying to break the ice and trying to get the couple to talk. And I said, oh, that's nice to pick that song. I said, what was your song that you did for your first dance? And the guy looks at me and goes, Highway to Hell.
But hey, I'm looking at the clock. We got to get business birthday out of the way.
Oh, business birthday. Okay.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
Born today, February 3rd, 1968, Andrew Conrue. Happy 53rd. He's an American internet businessman who founded e-commerce, advertising, and online dating and personal sites. A number of them previous were W3, Ad Acknowledge, Web Personals, but you'd know him best for Friend Finder and Adult Friend Finder. He's currently CEO of the Friend Finder Networks. He, 1991, he was a graduate of Stanford. He received a doctorate in mechanical engineering and developed a bunch of different sort of websites that were related to, in some
companionship.
What's that?
Companionship.
They were like ad optimization. So in other words, you would serve up different banner ads based upon what kind of sites you went to and so forth. He was on the kind of the early side of that with software. And then he had founded a site called webpersonals.com, which was considered one of the first internet dating sites in 1995. And then in 1996, he launched Friend Finder, which was an early social networking site which would help people connect. And it was really just to find friends. It was really just a friend site, supposedly. But after a couple of days, he would go on the site and he would find out that people were posting nude photos of themselves.
This is news to me. Okay.
And they were using it to seek out partners and adult activities. So he then decided, well, I'm going to start Adult Friend Finder. And so then he followed up with all these other niche sites. So he did Senior Friend Finder, Amigos Friend Finder, Big Church Friend Finder for the Christians, Alt Friend Finder. So by 2007, he had 260 million registered members and more than 500,000 affiliates. He had 450 employees. Another thing we missed, John.
Totally missed. Yeah.
Sold the company to Penthouse Media Group for $500 million.
$500 million. I would have settled for $5.
I get mad when we miss these things. You and I could have done this.
Friend Finder.
So anyway, Penthouse changed the name to Friend Finder Networks. And of course, then Penthouse messed it up. 2013, they filed for Chapter 11. He ended up taking the company back over. They don't say, Penthouse ended up losing money on the deal. They don't say what he was able to buy it for. And it doesn't say much of what it's worth now. And I tried to look up his net worth, and I really can't really get a clear view of it. But essentially, he's still doing some other work. He's got a foundation called CityRoof.org, which helps homeless people make connections and try to find either work or places to live and so forth. In 2010, he tried to buy Playboy Enterprises from Hugh Hefner for $210 million, but he refused to sell. And then in 2016, Friend Finder had a huge data breach where $412 million of their accounts were leaked. All their emails, passwords, and credit card accounts were breached, and passwords and so forth. So they've had some troubles.
Put onto the dark web your Friend Finder profile, including some
Happy
of the
birthday,
nudity.
Andrew Conway.
It's a good business birthday, and thank you for slapping me on the wrist, reminding me that I need to invent something. I'll get to it today. I'll invent something today. So, hey, friends, we want to thank you for joining us today. Subscribe, like, and rate us, of course. FocusGroupRadio.com is the URL for our website, and you'll find all our media there, including our Tuesday podcast unbuttoned. So have a safe week, mask up, and we'll see you in the new one.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at FocusGroupRadio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.